Hi, and thank you for tuning in to Rugged Mountain Homestead. My name is Sarah, and today I am in the kitchen again. One of my favorite places to be as we approach the Christmas holidays. Today I'm going to be making and canning some Christmas chutney. I call it Christmas chutney in the Ball Book of Home Preserving, this one right here. It is actually listed as cranberry chutney. I call it Christmas chutney because at times I tend to go a little rogue in the kitchen and substitute some things. For instance, this called for candied pineapple. We eat pineapple, but we're not fans of candied pineapple, so I am replacing it with something else. And then I just might omit something and I just change it up a little bit so it turns into kind of like my recipe, and then I call it Christmas chutney. This is just the base. So I thought maybe you'd like to come along with me today as I make that, see how it's made, and then we can can it up together. This will be my first canning session since moving to Colorado, so we'll see how it goes. It should be an easy one because this chutney only needs to be water bath canned, so I'm not really too concerned about it. Pressure canning is another story. Okay, and as you can see, I have a lot of stuff going on here in the kitchen today. On the stove, I have spaghetti sauce cooking for dinner tonight. I have butter softening over on the table, getting ready to make Dean some cookies. Here are the ingredients for our chutney. And I am actually trying to film this before I have a tripod, so just bear with me. I want you to be able to see everything, but I'm going to be probably half out of the video most of the time. Okay, so I'm using my large cast iron pot, and the recipe calls for 3 cups of fresh or frozen cranberries. I just buy the fresh that's in the store, about as fresh as I can get. That is the equivalent of 2 bags. So I'm going to combine the cranberries. Okay, so the next thing is 1 1/4 cup finely chopped onion, which really came about to being 1 large, very large onion. If you only have medium, I would do 2. But with things like onion and things with a strong flavor, I don't really go rogue with that. I tend to stick with the amount in the recipe until I really know how it's going to taste. I've made this chutney once before. I made it last year at Christmas, and it went over really, really well. The next is calling for 1 1/4 cups chopped pineapple. Like I said, we don't do candied pineapple. We do regular pineapple, but not candied. So I substituted with 1 1/4 cups of chopped Granny Smith apples. Here's 1 1/4. Okay. And then 3 cloves of garlic, finely chopped, which I have right here. 3 cloves just seems to be like the magic number. It's what I use in fire cider, it's what I use in my spaghetti sauce, and now it's what I use in chutney as well. And 2 tablespoons of finely chopped ginger root. Okay, this is ginger root here, and I used actually a whole piece. And I used my zester, so it is like very, very fine. Ginger root is extremely strong. It is spicy, and I would not want to bite down into like ginger. So I did better than finely chopping. I used the zester, which made it almost like paste. So I say all that because when it calls for 2 tablespoons, for me, that would be too much. I think this is going to be plenty, and since it's like almost like a paste now, this is 1 very healthy tablespoon. And then I'm going to use a 1/4 cup of apple juice. And then 1 cup of red wine vinegar. Now we're going to take this over to the stove. We're going to bring it to a boil. We are going to stir it every once in a while. My stove cooks rather hot. I'm still getting used to this stove, but I'm just going to go ahead and stir it all up here now. I like to make sure it's nice and mixed up. I don't want any like sections of ginger or just a section of onion. I know it's going to cook down. I've had people tell me that when I'm cooking before, and it's just my thing. I stir, 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 and then I want to have it all incorporated very nicely. So I'm going to cover this. I'm going to bring it to a boil. So I'm just going to let this be for a little bit, and we'll come back. Okay, so as you can see, everything has come to a boil nicely. If you hear a little pop, that will be the cranberries popping. So what we're going to do now is reduce the heat. Well, you want it to be like a simmering boil. If that even makes any sense, that's what I call it. It's not even a rolling boil. Just where you're getting the bubbling. Yeah, there we go. I'm still guessing at the settings on my stove. So this is kind of where I want it. You can still, so you can hear it. If you look carefully, you can see the bubbling, but it's not really a rolling boil. So we're going to leave it like this, probably about 15 minutes. Let all these cranberries pop, burst open, get all that flavor and goodness going on, and then we will stir again. Okay. 1 teaspoon dry mustard, 1 healthy teaspoon of cinnamon. We like cinnamon around here, and I love the properties of cinnamon. 1 teaspoon of cloves, 1/2 teaspoon of cayenne. Now let's just combine all this goodness. The color's getting even darker. It is so pretty, and it is going to look so pretty set up in little jelly jars. Okay, so now I'm going to turn the heat back up a little bit, and we are going to bring this to a gentle boil, and we're going to let it stay there for approximately 15 minutes. And again, I will probably go ahead and stir intermittently throughout that time. And the only reason being is I haven't had any problem with sticking or anything like that, but I just want to make sure. So I always tend just check it every now and then and give it a good stir. Doesn't hurt anything. So it's starting to thicken upon standing. We will go ahead and get ready to start our canning session. Now, since this is made with high acid foods, cranberries, apples, apple juice, has a good amount of sugar in it, we will only need to water bath can it. We will not need to pressure can it. Pressure canning is used for low acid foods. Okay, this is my first canning session, like I said, in Colorado, so it's a little exciting for me. I'm going to take an 8-ounce jar. It has been sterilized. Funnel, and just going to ladle it in there. We're going to ladle it into the 1/2 inch headspace. That way it'll give it just the amount of room that it needs to expand during the canning process. Now, they have those handy dandy little tools that you put in there just to see what your headspace is. But I've also read in the book that these bands right here are for more than just screwing on your lid. Right here, this is the 1-inch mark. The second band over here would be the 1/2 inch mark, and then this one's the 1/4 inch mark. So you see that we have a little bit more room to go. If I were going to can with 1 inch of headspace, that would have been just right. So there we are. Okay, so now what you're going to want to do is you're going to take something plastic, just not a knife or anything metallic, anything like that. They also have those little tools, but I have this, and so it works just fine. You're going to just stick it down in there, just different places, and get out any air bubbles. Okay. I lay it on a paper plate. I have just a little bit of tiny bit of vinegar in the cup. Get a paper towel, and then I'm just going to wipe the rim of the jar. That way, if there's any little bit of sticky, it's not going to break my seal because it's all cleaned off. This was boiling water. I have my lids and bands in here. They say you don't need to do this anymore. I just still feel better about it. Just sterilizing the lids and bands, and I think wetting those seals there also helps it maybe make a tighter seal, just makes me feel better. So now I'm just going to lay that on top. Take one of my bands, okay, and then just finger tight. Don't do it too tight or your lids are going to buckle and you're not going to give it any room to expand. Just finger tight. And we'll just go ahead and repeat that for the remaining jars. Now that all the jars are filled, I am just taking my little handy dandy plastic stick here. Some people use a chopstick. This is actually one of those grapefruit things, sections from Tupperware, and we don't eat grapefruit, so I use it to debubble my jars for canning. And this actually, the recipe says we'll make about 6, and it made 7. So that's never a bad thing. And then when I'm wiping the rim of the jar, I'm not touching it, but also I'm trying to use a different spot, because as you can see, look there. There was a teeny tiny little piece, probably of cranberry on there. That's what I got off the rim of the jar. That is enough to cause my seal to fail. And if your seal fails, just put it in your refrigerator and start to use it. But here's the great thing about these jars. Dean and I are big fans of homemade gifts. We think that they're much more thoughtful. There's not the pressure on the giver to spend money and put them in a stressful situation. You know, we don't want that for anybody. And it's just, it makes the season, we think, so much more fun and relaxing, and everybody has a talent. And it's a very personal gift. You know, the people that you give gifts to, sometimes you're like, what am I gonna get them? I know I used to be that way. What am I gonna get them? What are we gonna do? And this is just, when you do something handmade, it's personal. The person really knows that you've thought about them, and you may think, because I battled with this, well, you know, it's not gonna be good enough. My gift's not gonna be good enough, or I don't know how to do that well enough. And don't let that get in your head, because last year was a tremendously hard year for our family. We had a lot of illness, we went through a lot of death, and it was just hard. And even around Christmas time, we experienced that. So we decided we were going to do homemade gifts, and which we did. And let me tell you, everybody was over the top about them. So we decided we're going to carry on. And just as a quick little brag moment, I have a lot of stuff over here because I've been busy. But this is my utensil holder. Isn't it beautiful? It's big, fits everything that I need in the kitchen. It's nice solid wood. And oh my goodness, look at this on the bottom. Can you get that, Dean?
Oh.
To Sarah, Christmas 2021, love, Dean. I love it. It's an awesome gift, and it was from the heart. So, that being said, these jars are going to be gifts. So, taking my jars and giving them as gifts. You can go on to avery.com, and they actually have like a whole software load, and you can make your labels, and that's what Dean actually did for me last year. And you just put a pretty little Christmas label on here and maybe tie a little bit of string around it or ribbon around it. I didn't do that. I just had like several different things, and then I put them in a little tiny basket. You can get little baskets or things like that at the dollar store. Not a big deal. I had a ton of baskets and different things. We were downsizing a much larger house. So I used some of those baskets, and our daughter, I did a whole bunch for her, and I put it in one of my large baskets, and she was just overjoyed to have the basket, but she loved all the things in it too. So that being said, I'm gonna go ahead. I have my water bath canner heating up over here. I'm just gonna set these down in here. It holds 7, so we are perfectly on. Then I'm going to let these, I'm going to set them down in the water bath canner once it comes to a full rolling boil. They're just going to set like this until then. Once it comes to a full rolling boil, I'm going to lower this holder. They're going to be 1 inch under the water. And I'm going to keep it at a full rolling boil for 10 minutes. Once they're finished, I will set them out over here to cool, and I'll get a picture. But already, look at this. Doesn't that just look like Christmas in a jar? And This is also great. You can serve it with cream cheese and crackers if you like, if you wanted to do like a charcuterie board. But I gave it as a gift last year, and I believe it may have been my mom. But somebody that I gave it to, I'm thinking it was mom, put it over chicken and cooked it. I think that would be great to put it in your crock pot and do that. I might keep a little bit back and try that ourselves. But thank you once again for joining me in the kitchen here at Rugged Mountain Homestead. And I hope you've enjoyed this. Maybe it will inspire you to make a homemade gift this year. So until the next time, take care.